like one looks like. Beware of the man with one sandal. In his old age, Pelleas had seized the throne from his brother Aeson. He did not feel secure in his reign, however, for he could not bring himself to execute his brother, and he was troubled also by the oracle's prophecy. Pelleas became even more alarmed when he learned that his wife of Aeson was about to give birth to a child, and he resolved to have it slain. But just after a son had been born to the woman, her serving woman set up a wall of mourning. It was announced that the child had died, and within a few days a small coffin had been buried. Many years later, in the midst of a great festival, a report reached Pelleas that a young man of striking appearance had arrived in the marketplace. And to the old man's alarm, he saw a tall, broad-shouldered youth with long hair, shod only with one sandal, advancing towards him with 2 spears in his grasp. Pelleas shuddered with fear, for he sensed that the prophecy was being fulfilled.
Who are you?
I am Jason, son of Aeson.
The child that he had been mourned had not died. Instead, he had been smuggled out of the city and raised in secrecy. Now he was ready to assume power and deliver his challenge.
I have come to regain the throne which is my father's.
Pelleas knew that resistance would be unwise and therefore replied,
That may be, but there's one thing you first must do. The ghost of Phrixus bids us bring back the ghost of the Golden Fleece. Perform this task, and I shall yield up the throne.
I will do it. What? Phrixus. What was the Golden Fleece, and who was Phrixus? That is a story in itself. Phrixus, when still a boy, had been the victim of a cruel plot devised by his jealous stepmother. First, she had contrived in secret to ruin the year's seed by roasting it over the fire, so that the crops would fail. Then, when her husband had sent to Delphi for advice, she had bribed the messenger to give him this false message: only if you offer up your son as a sacrifice will the land become fertile. So Phrixus was led by his bitterly weeping father to the assigned place of sacrifice, a mountaintop. With a supreme effort of will, the father laid his hand on his son's shoulder and raised his knife. Suddenly, a magnificent winged ram with golden fleece swooped down from the heavens and landed beside them. In an instant, Phrixus was on the ram's back, its wings clapped together, and the boy was borne skyward. High in the air they flew over the scattered isles of the sparkling Aegean, and over still grey mountains to the Black Sea. On its eastern shores, at Colchis, they came to earth again. Here Phrixus offered up the golden ram as a sacrifice to Zeus, and hung its fleece in a grove guarded by a dragon that never slept.
For the voyage of Colchis, Jason assembled the greatest band of heroes that ever had been seen. Among them were Calais and Zetes, winged sons of North Wind Orpheus, who at this time had been met Orphidice, and along the armor-bearer Halys, the mighty Hercules, who at the time had just been completed his 4th labor. Since their ship was called the Argo, these warrior sailors, 50 in all, were known as the Argonauts. They had been contented with 2 difficulties before they could even embark, for the farewell banquet quarrels out among some who had partaken in the wine of Hartley. But Orpheus calmed them with the sweet strains of his lyre. Then, when launching time came, the Argo had laden with previous refused to budge. Once again, Orpheus saved the day, and charmed by his music, the Argo glide down the sand to the sea.
Lemnos was their first stop. The men of this island had all been murdered by their wives. When the Argo approached, a hostile army of women clad in their husbands' armor swarmed down to the shore to fend off a feared invasion. But when they saw the noble bearing of the Argonauts and learned that their intentions were peaceful, they permitted a landing and offered the men gifts of food and wine. So greatly did their attitude towards the men change that they would gladly have had their visitors remain. They even offered Jason the kingship. Hercules was eager to be on his way, however, and urged by him they departed.
Phineus, the ruler of eastern Thrace, had once foretold the future too accurately for Zeus's liking, and had been punished as a result with blindness and the visits of 2 harpies. These foul creatures, with the wings and claws of birds and the bodies of women, swooped down to Phineus's dinner table at every meal, snatching the food from his hands and even from his mouth, and imparting a loathsome odor to what remained.